Revolutionary Guard Corps, and then they send some of them to the regular army in their art test units. Estimates are that there was an initial stockpile of up to tens of thousands of these drones. According to estimates by U.S. generals, 85% of Iran's attack drones and their drone facilities were destroyed in the war. Iran's production lines were significantly degraded by U.S. forces' kinetic negotiations. Their component sites were knocked out and secret storage spots were blown up. According to CENTCOM commander Bradley Cooper, they launched more than 800 strikes that were focused on Iran's drone launching units and their storage facilities. But despite these precision strikes, the IRGC is still able to close the Strait of Hormuz.
And we don't even have munitions like that. 800 strikes, and we still haven't decimated their military capability. But we keep on running out of these munitions, and of course, we're running out of munitions just by defending ourselves as well.
We're going to unpack all the different reasons for that. According to this study from the Washington Institute, these are operated from small, simple airstrips around the country, and they're kept in underground bases in central and southern Iran to avoid airstrikes. And they're launched from these kind of drone launching racks that can be quickly put up and then disassembled. So we're stuck in this loop of last one to take their hands off the Strait of Hormuz gets to keep it. American A-10 Warthogs fired 30mm strafing runs across positions on the southern coast. F-35 missiles slammed into drone launcher racks. Many fellow veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, though, they know what it feels like to deal with insurgents that plant IEDs on highways, detonate them on supply convoys, but then they run away before we're able to find or destroy them. And it's frustrating as f***. Hunting drone launch teams near Hormuz is very similar to hunting IED teams, except the outcome impacts global shipping.
Honestly, it's like the hardest game of whack-a-mole too, though, especially when it comes to taking care of their missile capability. It's like, bro, they pop out, they shoot their missile to go back underground, and we got to try to catch these guys before they go back underground, which is damn near impossible.
Iran's deputy chief of staff for their armed forces, Reza Sheikh, claimed that they're able to surge drone production by tenfold by scaling the dispersed assembly of smaller systems throughout the country. How exactly does that work? Personally, I've learned a lot about drones and drone manufacturing over the past few years. And for me, the best way to learn has always been to get hands-on with a new technology. So before we get back to today's episode, I want to tell you about today's partner, the Volo X Easy AI drone from DCX Unlimited. My favorite thing about them is their code CAPPYARMY for 20%.
I don't know, man. These the drones, the flock cameras, man, is making me real distrustful of these drone companies and these camera companies as well, or these AI companies. I'm gonna be honest with you, real distrustful.
Sending the main components that Iran needs to surge their drone production. This is why on July 25th, the Ukrainian armed forces hit an Iranian military cargo ship for the first time in the Caspian Sea, killing one Iranian sailor. They were transporting attack drone components from Russia. 60% of those components come from China. Made in China is on the back of every toy that my kid has, and it's on the back of every drone hitting ships in the Middle East. Part of the reason it's so difficult to destroy the drone production lines is because the IRGC uses front companies, like how mattress firms here in America is just a front company for money laundering. Some of those innocent-looking Radio Shacks in Iran are front companies for the IRGC to make their killer drones. They have a lot of these dual-use suppliers that have civilian use and military.
That makes sense. I mean, because Radio Shack been shut down since like the 2008 recession. Like, so Radio Shack went out of business. So, I mean, what the hell is a Radio Shack still doing in Iran when the actual Radio Shack is shut down? Bro, it was like having a Pontiac, bro. It's like if they had a Pontiac manufacturing plant in Iran. It's like, yeah, you're most likely building missiles out of that because Pontiac has been out of business since 2008.
Their use. So companies selling Iranian cars or gaming computers secretly help in making killer drones sometimes. But hitting all of those would risk significant collateral damage. There are also foreign procurement routes from railroads and highways leading into China.
Yeah, which low-key makes it tough because it is infusing their civilian with their military capability, if you honestly think about it. Because, like, all right, so these guys make drones and missiles, but, I mean, they also, manufacture steel, concrete, or something else. And you striking them, they could be considered civilian and military targets. Why? Because they build munitions, but they also build other things that's essential to their economy. You know, that's outside of military use. So it does make it very tricky striking these places when they have a dual use like this.
which is why U.S. forces keep targeting those routes. Since the start of the war, U.S. and Israeli munitions have hit over 20,000 combined targets in Iran. One notable instance of Iran's drone production facilities is the Iran Aircraft Manufacturing Industrial Company, the HESA, in Isfahan, which was repeatedly targeted by Air Force strikes. If you look at the satellite imagery, both the production and assembly lines for Iran's aircraft were destroyed. The hangars for upgrading and repairing aircraft destroyed. The extensive destruction of the facility was considered one of the biggest blows to Iran's drone and aviation industry. This is why you're seeing far less mass long-range drone strikes by Iran and much smaller, more targeted attacks compared to earlier in the war. The top U.S. military advisor to the president, General Dan Kane, explained the difficulty here.
So I think academically, as you look across the totality of history, air power's got limits, and we always have to be mindful of those.
The Washington Institute's report points out that the problem is,
AKA, we just can't topple this regime or make Iran surrender due to just constant air campaigns and it's flexing our air superiority. It's not going to work like that. And I mean, it kind of goes to show we're still in this war, like considering all this air superiority that we have.
multiple universities and technical schools in Iran provide the talent pool required for airframes, avionics, propulsion, guidance components, materials, fiber optics, artificial intelligence, and systems integration. So there are these various startups, small firms, and private workshops that enable the improvisation, the redesign, and the subcontracting of drones. And that attempting to target all of that whole supply chain would raise a whole mess of major political, legal, and ethical dilemmas. This is probably why there are wide reports.
Yeah, because it would basically be taking out civilian targets as well, and we'd also have to kill civilians as well. That's what I'm saying. There's a whole bunch of, you know, we'd be leaning into a bit of war crimes. I'm not gonna lie. We definitely would be. It's like how we destroyed the bridges. Is like, yeah, well, just because the military go across that bridge one good time or uses that bridge to exit out of the province doesn't mean you can destroy every bridge in that province and say, oh yeah, we're just taking out military targets. No, at a certain point you are committing war crimes. But then again, it's like what, destroying every bridge out of us. It's like destroying every bridge and highway out of a state. It's like, and then saying, oh no, it's to restrict our military. And imagine if they did that in a place like Ohio, where you could low-key make that argument. But imagine what you'd be doing to the citizens though.
Of over 30 of Iran's universities and education centers hit during the war, the ones that are linked to weapons production like the Laser and Plasma Research Institute. Iran and its proxies launched roughly 4,400 one-way attack drones at various countries before the ceasefire went into effect, an average of about 120 per day, with the vast majority fired in just the first 2 weeks. That number has been significantly reduced. But even if it's true and Iran only maintains 20% of their drone capabilities, far less than that is really needed in order to continue to threaten shipping and U.S. bases in the region. Recent reports indicate Iran is receiving upgraded, more advanced versions of their attack drones from Russia, which means even if they have less drones, they're able to inflict more damage with them now. The difficulty is they hide in an area the size of basically the entire west or east coast of America. It's searching for a terrorist needle in a haystack. The barrier to entry to stop shipping is incredibly low. All you need is a 1994 Toyota truck and one drone. Now that the Houthis are threatening,
it's like literally too easy to close the strait, but it's way too much. It's way too hard to keep it open, and that's the problem. Iran can just close the strait with just sending a missile or just showing that they can send a missile and drone, and showing that they can hit a vessel. What they've shown about like what 3 or 4 times at this point. That's all they got to do. What we got to do is ensure that we can intercept these drones and missiles while these ships make it through the strait. And we have not been able to show that whatsoever.
Needs to cut off Saudi Arabian oil from crossing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Their remaining stockpile of drone munitions is now in question. 2 Houthi officials told the Associated Press that the rebel weapons stockpiles are running low after its attacks during the Israel-Hamas war. So the IRGC sent about 20 commanders on recent flights into Yemen to help the Houthis set up and advise them on a blockade of the strait. And they brought missiles and drone components with them, according to the reports. So the Iran war has further impeded the flow of weapons to the Houthis. Their ability to get direction and orders from higher up. According to the head of CENTCOM, they executed 2,000 strikes against Iran's command and control structures, killing over 100 of Iran's senior leaders and dozens of their lower-level commanders. It'd be like if the US president and half of Congress were blown up. This created leadership vacuums and internal confusion early in the war and to this day. Over 50 major military bases and the headquarters of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard were hit. But Iran came up with a Mosaic doctrine of warfare designed to mitigate the attempt to completely decapitate their command structure. The Mosaic doctrine was established in 2005 after Iran saw how toppling Iraq's leader Saddam Hussein quickly led to the regime collapsing in Iraq without him. U.S. fighting doctrine quickly cut off the communications between Iraqi generals and Saddam, and that led to mass desertions in the Iraqi army. Iran saw that American strategy, cutting off centralized command centers, is a single point of failure. So they restructured the entire IRGC in 2008 into 31 provincial commands that are spread out across the country. So the Mosaic Doctrine, or Mosaic Defense, was created by the IRGC's Center for Strategic Studies that was led by Jafari, who came up with this strategy to prevent the rapid regime collapse. Iran's military units are now autonomous, and they follow instructions that were provided to them beforehand. This is why we see attacks against ships in Hormuz and ballistic missile launches occasionally, even when Iran's political leadership calls for them to stop. IRGC commanders have the authority to continue firing, and many of them have no interest in stopping the war.
Oh, yeah, because they run a Mosaic defense. So even when these guys are like, yo, guys, chill out, they're like, I don't know, man. I just don't think the Americans are done yet, bro. Listen, look. I hop this. I'll stop after I let off about like 4 more missiles and drones, and then we'll think about it. But I just don't think that the Americans are ready. Yeah, they have a Mosaic defense and this is why the firing won't stop if we kill their leaders. If we destroy another succession of leaders, the firing still goes on because of their Mosaic defense, and it's basically decentralized armies. Like, they're just firing off because they get the coordinates, they fire off at that station chief's command, pretty much. So wherever they're at, whoever the chief's there, they're the ones who get the final say. Not the Ayatollah, sadly. Well, no, the Ayatollah too, but pretty much not the president, and nobody in government can stop the IRGC. And that's the problem. The guys out there in government are the ones pretty much trying to make the deal, but they have to try to pretty much align with the IRGC, and the IRGC's point or their position is a bit more, well, hawkish now. It's like they don't want to stop it. They want to continue it because they don't feel like America is taking enough pain, but the government is trying to stop it because, well, the people of Iran low-key need a break. But as you see, though, they're not really getting that. But we'll see what happens because both sides have stopped firing, apparently for the third night in a row, thank God. So we'll see what happens here.
The downside to Mosaic defense is that their forces are less effective because they can't reach any kind of critical mass, and their coordination is degraded. Next, what's left of Iran's naval capabilities? Over 150 surface vessels were destroyed in the war, more submarines were knocked out, and most large ships, the IRGC Navy pre-war, had an estimated 20,000 personnel, and their main equipment remaining were fast attack boats. CENTCOM Commander Bradley Cooper claimed 90% of Iran's 8,000 naval mines were destroyed by over 700 American airstrikes on Iranian naval mine targets. So Apache helicopters, AC-130 gunships firing cannons from above, and A-10 Warthogs, among other aircraft, destroyed many of these ships. The estimate was that 70% of the IRGC fast attack boats were believed to be destroyed. But when the dust settled on the ceasefire, assessments changed, and it turned out that likely 60% of Iran's fast attack boat fleet survived. There are different estimates of how many they operated originally, but it's believed between 1,500 and 3,000 are in the Mosquito fleet, as it's called. This is why CENTCOM frequently now releases footage of boats getting destroyed in docks. It doesn't take military boats to lay mines. Most any speedboat can do it. So the U.S. military has run short on targets after destroying so much of the IRGC forces, and they're now hitting any boats near the coast capable of harassing shipping. Next, what is left of Iran's ballistic missile force? Early in the war, American and Israeli F-35 fighter jets destroyed hundreds of missile launchers. The Israeli military claimed that 85% of Iran's launchers were destroyed. According to CENTCOM's commander, they launched 450 strikes on ballistic missile storage facilities. The volume of IRGC ballistic missile launchers was reduced by 90%. After the first week of the war, launches were down from 600 to 20 per day. Then the entrance of the tunnels to the underground missile bases were destroyed and completely caved in. These bases are where the IRGC had an estimated stockpile of up to 3,000 at its height, but is believed to be closer to 2,000 now. This footage shows the aftermath of an American airstrike on the IRGC missile warehouse.
Here's a problem, though. It's like, well, yeah, we're able to strike them, but we can't destroy the missiles because they put them underground. And then we pretty much close the entrance. We close the entrance to these underground facilities, but we don't fully destroy the underground facility. I mean, that's the problem here. They can make them above and underground. That's the problem with trying to stop Iran's, missile defense or missile capabilities.
This is smoldering wreckage here of Iran's Tabriz missile field in the East Azerbaijan province of northwestern Iran. Intelligence reports started coming out that Iran was able to use excavators and construction equipment to dig the tunnel entrances out during the ceasefire. According to CIA assessment,
like, we can't destroy them. We can just close the entrance so they can't reach them for the time being. But during that ceasefire, they was digging out all those entrances. The same thing they did with Mount Fordow, which is why, pretty much what Trump administration was pretty much saying that, oh, we obliterated it. No, we just closed the entrance that they removed all the rubble from.
Iran was able to reconstitute between 50 to 70% of their missile force. Many of the ballistic missile launchers that were initially hit in the war turned out to be decoys, hundreds of one-to-one scale replicas.
Oh, guys, you got any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements? I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. Just make sure to send in a super chat or Venmo, guys. Appreciate the support. And let's see if we can get this call-in line open.
Of launchers were mass-produced by the IRGC. So most of the recent unclassified combat footage released by CENTCOM shows largely excavators and Iranian construction equipment getting blown up instead of missile launchers. This is done to prevent them from digging out access to these underground missile bases. Commercial satellite images of the missile sites show that Iran has been using construction equipment to try to fix roads and reinforce tunnel entrances to protect them from American bombings. It's becoming more difficult to find high-value targets, partly because so many of them have already been destroyed, and partly because Iran has become more skilled at hiding their launchers. It's like my buddy HLC says, a lot of the stupid ones are already dead at this point, and what's left is smarter fighters in the IRGC, the less retarded ones. Here we see footage taken by an American soldier at a base in Jordan, where they get an early warning alert that Iranian ballistic missiles are incoming, and they typically only have about...
No, I'm not gonna lie, though. That was like hella smart what they did, though. They pretty much sent out a whole bunch of one-launcher, missile launchers on the back of these little trucks, and we just blew them up continuously. And here's the thing, like, those are all just decoys. Like, they were okay with losing those. They didn't really need them. So we just wasted all that munitions on, missile launchers that they were okay with being destroyed. I mean, just like their planes. They left their planes out from the 60s and 70s because they didn't care. They're like, go ahead, destroy those. We weren't never going to try to take you guys up top of the air. That'd have been crazy.
60 seconds to 5 minutes pre-warning. So they quickly grab their body armor, grab their weapons and Kevlar helmets, and they run to the closest shelter for protection. These are more underground, deep shelters than a lot of veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan are probably used to seeing, where the threat was smaller mortars and rockets. Since the start of the war, Iran has worked to manufacture and rebuild its missile stockpile. They're shooting far fewer missiles in their salvos than it did earlier in the war, but they're using their more advanced systems now. Some of their more advanced medium-range systems are being deployed, which fly faster and can maneuver mid-flight to better avoid air defense. Damage to American air defense systems and radars in the region has also made it easier for a lower volume of Iranian missiles and drones to get through. Reports are now coming out that China and Russia are helping Iran with targeting U.S. bases. Evidence of this were covert CIA annexes, CIA bases in Iraq and the Middle East that were hit that only China or Russia would have the intelligence capabilities to pick up. Mainly, we know Iran lacks the kind of space-based satellite abilities to find and target bases of the CIA with this level of precision without help. Iran released footage showing that their coastal anti-ship missiles continue firing at U.S. warships, which explain why so much American firepower has been focused on the southern coast of Iran. Now, what about the Houthi missile abilities? When the U.S. conducted Operation Rough Rider in 2025 against the Houthis, after about 7 weeks of U.S. and U.K. combined strikes at over 1,000 Houthi targets, the campaign reduced the Houthis' immediate attack tempo, and CENTCOM reported about 70% reduction in ballistic missile launches and about a 50% reduction in drone launches. but it did not permanently eliminate their missile and drone capability.
Sadly, like I said, because we got to focus on Iran too. We can't focus on both of them. We're just going to waste munitions in Yemen and waste munitions in Iran. And that's honestly the strategy, is to pretty much split up our striking. But I mean, hey, and here's the thing. During the ceasefire, well, Iran was pretty much supplying Houthis with drones and missile components.
The two sides then reached an agreement to end the fighting at that point. This should give us some idea of how a sequel in the Bab el-Mandab would go. Something not frequently talked about is Iran's 500,000 active duty personnel. Their conventional force remains largely intact. Despite much of their conventional hardware being destroyed, the airstrikes on Iranian troops and armored vehicles happen largely in the west of the country on the border with Iraq. But airstrikes have not focused on inflicting mass casualties. Both armies have prioritized destroying equipment instead of personnel. One indicator to look for if the United States were to try to take a part of Iran's southern coast would be these conventional units getting bombed more heavily to prevent them from reinforcing the south. What about Iran's air defense systems and air force? Iran's conventional long-range air defense network is possibly the most fully destroyed and degraded capability of Iran's military as a whole, I would say. It's also the most difficult capability to reconstitute. During the opening phase of the war, the multi-domain campaign achieved air superiority in just 100 hours. A lot of Iranian radar systems and launch sites, they have to...
Oh, guys, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel, too, especially if you've been watching longer than like 30 minutes. Appreciate the support, guys.
Be out 24/7.
Oh, remember, any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements, go ahead and super chat it in. Love to engage with it, or you can just send a gift to support the show.
To be an effective air defense system. Unlike an offensive missile, you can fire it, you can go back into a underground facility. Air defense kind of has to be out 24/7, and it makes it vulnerable. And that's part of the reason why this system has been so fully degraded. America used new forms of AI targeting to knock out just hundreds of Iranian air defense systems. Destroying even a limited number of radar systems creates huge blind spots, which then allowed the US and Israeli aircraft to fly low and evade radar and create corridors into central Iran. It's been widely reported that about 80% of Iran's air defense has been destroyed, and in reality, it may be far more than that. Evidence of that comes from the IRGC firing actual ancient anti-aircraft cannons into the sky, even though American B-1 bombers are flying way out of range of those AA guns and dropping bombs over Tehran with impunity right now. But the IRGC continues firing to show that they haven't given up. I think it's more of a symbolic show of defiance, firing the AA cannons into the sky, than anything else. Because the IRGC is mostly out of long-range surface-to-air systems. All that has survived is some local point defenses and some systems that have been moved underground into their bases. Iran has had to get smarter with how they try to shoot down aircraft, attempting to trick pilots into flying lower and then hitting them with more passive man-pad launchers. This remains a limited threat for pilots. There are reports that the downed US pilot over Iran, the one that was saved that time, Iran is deploying a new type of drone swarm to act as a minefield in midair. What appears like a jellyfish with drones connected to it with cables, operating as one drone swarm that a fighter pilot might accidentally fly into. Imagine it's similar to drone swarms that we've seen in civilian shows in places like China. But these initial reports, it's unclear how widespread these air drone minefields are or exactly what the pilot really saw. If you found this video interesting, check out this one on US Black Ops in Iran. I think you might find it interesting. It's a lot about the history of what led up to this war. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy, ending transmission.
And all right, man. Shout out to Chris Cappy. Like I said, I do enjoy his breakdowns of it. And I'm pretty sure, hopefully you guys kind of get the picture here. But all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to international media. Houthis claim they shot down Saudi drones as Red Sea conflict spreads. So let's get into it a little bit.
Hello and welcome back to First Post Live, where we bring you the day's top stories from across the world. I'm Joshua Barnes, live from the First Post studios. Let's begin with the headlines. The Pentagon has moved 4 US troop deaths out of its official Iran war casualty count. The change has raised questions over how the human cost of the conflict is being recorded. British Prime Minister Andy Burnham will host Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in his first meeting with a foreign leader since taking office, reaffirming the UK's unwavering support for Ukraine. to disrupt global trade.
Told you, man. AK and flip flop. Them boys in Saudi got trillions of dollars, and they getting outplayed by guys in AK and damn, they ain't even wearing flip flops. They out here bare feet. Well, damn. All right. Oh, shout out to my man Noah.
The Houthi military said it had carried out a coordinated operation targeting Saudi Arabia. Detailing the mission, the group said it had struck multiple.
Hey, and shout out to my man Noah Joyner for sending the 10 on Venmo, which is actually now worth 20 because anything you send on Venmo is pretty much doubled. But he says, if we did actually want to destroy that mountain, we should use one of our railguns in low Earth orbit. I'm not saying we do it, but we could. Is it pissing rain in Ohio? You know, it was for the last couple of days. I'm not even gonna lie. And then we had like one nice warm day out of nowhere that I was able to take advantage of and walk on the trail. But after that, I ain't gonna lie, it's been a gloomy all day and also into the morning as it is now. But you know what's crazy? Like, look, we could nuke it, we could drop these bombs on it, and we still don't know if we can actually hit these underground bases, especially Pickaxe Mountain. So that's one of the main problems that we're dealing with right now. Is like, if we bomb this, please tell us that we're not going to be wasting munitions on just trying to bomb this, and all we did was close an entrance, and we didn't fully destroy this mountain or Pickaxe or this facility. Like, that's kind of what we're going on right here, and I'm wondering what they're going to do, because I mean, if we destroy it and all we do is close the entrance, that just proves that the bunker busters aren't enough to reach underground, and we're just wasting them.
Multiple oil facilities.
The Yemeni Houthi armed forces carried out two types of military operations. The first targeted sensitive targets at Aramco facilities in Jazan using dozens of ballistic missiles and drones, while the second operation targeted sensitive targets at Aramco facilities in Yanbu using ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones.
Well, Saudi Arabia's civil defense confirmed that air raid sirens sounded multiple times early on Saturday in both locations. The kingdom offered no further comment on damage or casualties. The Houthis said their attacks were a retaliation for recent Saudi airstrikes. Houthi health officials also said the strikes hit a port and the state-run telecommunications corporation, leaving 2 people injured.
Oh, guys, yeah, and like I said, if you want to double your support, you can go ahead and send in a Venmo, guys. It's the best way to go get this calling line open, because whatever you send in gets doubled. Like I said, if you send 10 in, it's worth 25, 10, and so on and so on. You guys know what I'm talking about. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and get right to it. And don't forget to double tap that screen and watch the video. And especially if you've been watching for more than about, like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, you might as well subscribe to the show as well.
Days earlier, Saudi Arabia had bombed the Houthi-held port city of Hodeidah on the Red Sea. The Saudi-led coalition said it had targeted what it described as legitimate military sites in Hodeidah province, claiming they posed a threat to commercial shipping. And the Houthis have made their intentions clear. Listen in.
We reaffirm that the maritime blockade imposed on the Saudi enemy remains in force in response to its aggression and unjust blockade, which has continued for 12 years. We will not hesitate to expand our military movements and escalate our actions in the coming hours and days in line with our policy of blockade for blockade and escalation for escalation.
Well, what triggered this exchange was the Houthis' own earlier actions. They had attacked 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea last week. Each side justified its violence as a response to the other's aggression. And the effects of the conflict are now becoming clear, because the main battleground is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. On Sunday, only 11 commercial vessels passed through the waterway, the lowest daily shipping traffic recorded there in months. The data.
Oh, and shout out to my man Noah Joyner coming in again. And hold on, man, you deserve a celebration. I forgot to give you it the last time.
Raise a blade in your mouth.
Also underscored.
But shout out to